back in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's no secret, one of my favorite places. And Jacki Hedgecock, the founder and principal of Jacki Hedgecock Real Estate in Wilmington, North Carolina, specializing in the luxury real estate space, is joining. Jacki, so great to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It sounds very official saying something along the lines of principal and founder, but
That's
thank you.
right. We've been working on getting together. The fall season has been kind of a whirlwind between all the other responsibilities we have, and then in addition to all the wonderful bugs that are going around. So thank you so much for rescheduling with me and for helping me get this done. It's great to connect with you. Looking forward to talking about Wilmington. Like I said, one of my favorite places. Jacki, before we get into the Wilmington market, some of the areas in which you specialize there in your market as well, share for listeners a little bit about what drew you to real estate. What was your inspiration? How long have you been practicing?
So I've been a realtor for 5.5 years, and I always wanted to be a realtor. I was super interested in it from the time that I was in college I started college in 2006, but fed into the whole, I have to go to corporate America, climb the ladder, yada, yada, yada. And then I did that. I worked, in the corporate world and did my thing, got my master's degree and different promotions. And then I had kids and I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? And I didn't want to travel. And in the corporate world, you do have to travel a lot if you want to move up. So I got my real estate license when I was 7 months pregnant with my son,
Wow. When was that? Let's see, 5.5 years. So almost
2020,
2020?
during
2020.
COVID. Yep,
Oh, during
during
COVID.
COVID. Yeah.
Wow.
I was actually
Wow.
in real estate class, and in North Carolina, you have to go in person. And so
Mhm.
we were in class, and then it's, like the headlines, like the world is shutting down. And everybody was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I was like, no, really, what are we going to do? Because I have a ticking time bomb in my stomach. And so I was concerned because I was like, I knew if I didn't get it done before they became, there was no telling if and when it was going to happen. So then they
Yeah.
switched to online, did it online, had to wait on the facilities, the testing facilities to open up, but it all worked out.
Yeah, what a time. What a time to
Really
earn
fun.
your license. Who knew at the time what was, what the market was, what sort of market was coming in 20 and 21 and 22. What were you doing prior to real estate? What was your corporate gig?
So most recently, I had been with BASF. It's the large chemical company, world's largest chemical company. I always worked in agriculture. So in their agriculture sector, I started off selling chemicals to farmers and dealerships that worked with farmers. And our product line specialized in fungicides. So we had a lot of fungicides. So if a plant, was diseased or sick, the fungicide would treat that so that the crop wouldn't have, been ruined and or have toxins, et cetera. And then the natural progression there was then to go into product management. And so I went to our corporate office in RTP and I was a product manager there. Did a lot of our nitrogen products, and a lot of that was very Midwest based. And so whenever I traveled, I would go out to the Midwest or I would go to conferences, in different parts of the country. And it was great. And I know a lot of people are really fulfilled by that. But for me, once I had kids, that's when I was like, I was FaceTiming my infant when I was at a conference and I was pumping and carrying my breast milk through airports. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you had some, but when, prior to your real estate career, you had some high level sales experience, it sounds like. And did that serve you well as you began your real estate career? Did some of those skills kind of overlap and transfer?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the cool thing about real estate is there's so many different people with so many different backgrounds that become realtors. And real estate, you really can make it your own. So if you have a certain skill set, you can say, well, what I learned from this industry, I can apply here. Like, some people are great with staging. And so, like, that's their niche. Like, that's what they really bring to the table. Some people are really great with, like, a finance background. And so they're really great with investors or, even moving into commercial. And so for me, it was very much like relationship building and just networking and connecting people. And so that's just how I've ran my business, which was also how I ran my business previously.
Definitely a lot of overlap and similarities there between how you manage relationships with clients in your corporate career to how you manage and nurture relationships. As we know, it's been repeated so many times in this podcast that a real estate is a relationship business at the end of the day, and
Mhm.
that nurturing relationships is such a a valuable part of what we do week after week and month after month. You mentioned how agents are all unique, bring their own unique skill sets to the industry. And I love to ask agents who come on this podcast to share a little bit about what sets them apart in the marketplace. Everyone has their strengths, no doubt about it. Everyone has their weaknesses. And it's taken me a long time to recognize and identify my weaknesses and stay out of that lane as much as possible. Would love to know, like, what is your unique value proposition? What are some areas in which you excel in real estate?
Say, the level of attention to detail. I'm just, the devil's in the details. And so whether it's any aspect of my business, like marketing, for example, I know we'll talk about doing videos. So I think about how detail oriented I am and how planned out and structured I am when it comes to marketing. And so I have a marketing plan that I execute all year long. And sometimes it's evolving, right? I mean, it's real estate. It has to be ever evolving. Or like my CRM, it's very detail oriented. My transactions, I'm an over communicator, but I feel like if I'm giving every single detail, but also in a concise way, it makes the transaction easy for the other agent that I'm working for. It makes it really simple and really easy and very turnkey for my clients, any of the vendors that we work with, if there's a lender involved. So I think my attention to detail really goes a long, long way.
Absolutely. I know that clients certainly appreciate that as well. And specifically the luxury market, how, when working with clients who are in the luxury market, they tend to be higher level managers, C-suite type individuals who are,
High
uh,
expectations.
I was just going to say that exactly, have very high expectations and expect that outstanding communication and want their agent to be very detail oriented. That makes a lot of sense. And those are great strengths to have for someone who's specializing, generally speaking, in the luxury space. I love that you mentioned also that you have a marketing plan and you work that plan. And of course, it's always open to pivot or adjustment, but I'm a huge advocate for having a plan, working the plan, and not waking up every day wondering what you're supposed to do that day, or what you're supposed to publish or who you're supposed to call. So yeah, I think and your marketing is outstanding. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
No, it truly is. And also I want to mention your branding as well. Your website's gorgeous. I'm a marketer at heart. And so I notice these details. And so you're doing an amazing job. I want to talk about Wilmington though. Let's share a little bit. We've talked about Wilmington a few times on this podcast, and
Mhm.
I'm going to talk about it a few more times, I'm sure, but would love to see, what your take is on the Wilmington market. I understand Wilmington is just exploding.
Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't slowed down a whole lot. I was a realtor in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I had previously lived in Wilmington because I got my undergrad degree here, and then I moved to Raleigh. I was there for 11 years. And I was like, I got to get back to the beach. I got to raise my babies on the coast. And so talked my husband into it, which took me a couple of years. And so when I was in Raleigh, I knew real estate was a short game there, and I knew I had to hustle and do whatever, it was going to take to just have transactions and make some money. Ultimately, it would all lead to a good experience of making me an experienced agent for when I moved here. So we moved to Wilmington. In real estate, you're completely starting over whenever you move. And I feel so, so fortunate and so lucky. And honestly, it's all God that every single year that I've been in real estate, my sales increased. So even my first 12 months in Wilmington, my sales were more than the prior 12 months that they were in Raleigh. I just feel really fortunate, really lucky. And I say that's all due to God. I don't think I did anything special or anything unique. I think that I'm just a faithful Christian, and that's just how it worked out. But the Wilmington market has been awesome. So I noticed it's cool having worked in a major metro market that, was in the headlines during COVID, and then coming to a smaller market, but it's not super small, and the swings are bigger, and the hits are a little bit heavier with the market swings in a metro area. And so we get like a micro effect of that. But what's unique about Wilmington is the desirability factor is so different because of the coast. So COVID hit and everybody could move where they wanted to move and they could work where they want to work, which is great. I feel like our country needed that. And so in Wilmington, a lot of people had second homes here and ended up moving here full time. And so there's been a ton of transitions in terms of like the population here. Like people had second homes here, and then they moved into their second home as their full-time home, and they were like, this isn't enough space for us. So, selling off their properties elsewhere and then buying something bigger here and needing more space. Or a lot of people move to this area and then realize like, oh, this isn't nearly, where I wanted to be. It's not nearly close enough to the beach. It's not nearly close enough to the beach that I want to be at, because there's, 3 different beaches that you can go to. And so you have to live here to like really figure it out. And so I think that because Wilmington is so nuanced, it keeps the real estate market going. And I specialize in Landfall, which is a gated community it's the closest one to Wrightsville Beach. And I don't want to sound pretentious. I did not name it the bubble, but there's like the bubble of Wilmington, which is Wrightsville Beach, Landfall, Airlie, and kind of off like Greenville Loop Road. And naturally, that's just kind of where I landed because we chose to live in Landfall. And it's been really cool to start specializing in that. And that market, it's crazy. So I'm actually recording a video on Monday with my marketing videographer. And so I ran the stats yesterday, and I had a client here here in Landfall who they live in Raleigh. This is going to be a second home for them. That happens a lot. And they said they were kind of like lowballing offers basically. And then I was like, I got to figure it out, because if you look at national headlines, it looks like everything's slow, and it looks like homes are sitting, and it looks like sellers are making big concessions. Year over year in Landfall, which there's 2,000 houses here. So it's a market of its own. It's a micro market of its own. There have been more houses sold. Last year was 103. This year it's 111. The average price of the home sold has gone up 15.26%.
Wow.
And if you look at a national number, you're like, I mean, my mind was like, so at first I ran these numbers about a month ago and it was 14.9% and went up again to 15.26%. Average days on market has actually decreased by 2 days. And so homes are not taking longer to sell. So I think that that's also something that I want to mention on this podcast. If you're thinking about Wilmington, there are micro markets there, and I guarantee 99.99% of the agents in the Wilmington market do not know the stratified, I don't know if that's the right word to use, stratified level of detail and nuances and the beast that it is to work in somewhere like Landfall or Wrightsville Beach. And it's the same in other parts of Wilmington. And I don't specialize in those parts, but I do specialize in the area that I live in.
I think that, first of all, the stats don't surprise me. I know that from conversations with other Wilmington agents here on the podcast, I've learned that Wilmington continues to be nearly a vertical market. It's very desirable. Secret's out for sure, right? Which is why my wife and I discovered it. For the longest time, we're looking at places like Greenville, South Carolina, and Charleston, and we even considered Asheville for a minute. And then we thought, we've never been to Wilmington. Let's visit. And this was 2 years ago, and we stayed on Curry Beach in October. It's kind of the off season. It's beautiful though, and then we just did some exploring around Wilmington. And came back around the holidays, spent a few nights in downtown, and that's where we go now. When we visit, we generally stay downtown and just kind of explore from there.
Yeah, that's really smart.
We love the vibe. We love what it has to offer. My wife's a beach person. I'm an ocean guy at heart. I still have a dream of having a boat, and if I'm going to have a boat, I want Wilmington's where I want to have it.
I have a secret for you if you want a boat.
What's up?
Okay, well, all right. Number one, I'm sure you know this, manifesting. Like, I feel like I've manifested my whole life. Like the location where I live, my house, my husband, my kids, like the life that I get to live, being a realtor, manifestation. Okay, but some people can get sick of hearing that. There's a couple different boat clubs here. So I feel like living here, you want the boating lifestyle. And if you're in Carolina Beach, or I think they offer it in Topsail too, there's Freedom Boat Club. And it's amazing because I did the economical cost of if I were to join a boat club, or if I were to buy a boat 20 years from now, I would have spent less money having joined a boat club. They do all the maintenance for you. Totally unrelated to real estate, but if you want a boat, it's That's one of the things you can think about. And if you want to do it in Wrightsville Beach, which is the highest dollar area to be in outside of Figure Eight Island, there's a tiny little boat club that I'll let you know about whenever you guys move here.
I look forward to that. I will. Yeah, that's great advice too. And yeah, I'm familiar with boat clubs and the pros and cons for sure. And there are a lot of pros, a lot of positives to boat club membership versus boat ownership for sure.
Uh-huh.
That's it. Boat ownership is, what was I had boats in the family growing up. I think my dad used to say boat stands for bring another $1,000 or something like that,
Yes, I've
or
heard stuff like that before.
forget. But anyway, it was, and then of course the two happiest days of a boat owner's life: the day
The
they
day
buy
they
the
buy
boat and the
it,
day they
the
sell
day
it.
they sell it. Yeah, I heard
So,
that too.
so, anyway, I digress as I usually do. Landfall. So I've had conversations with Ben Bowen, who is a spectacular luxury real estate broker here in my area, my market, who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years, and just super guy. And he's really known in the Charlotte market as someone who is basically specializes in golf club communities, right? So the private clubs around Charlotte and Lake Norman area, he's really kind of dominates those markets. And he has, he made a point during our conversation on this podcast to say, you don't necessarily need to live in the neighborhood in which you want to specialize. And he'll get in the car and go to the south end of Charlotte to some of the clubs down there and list homes in those areas as well. But I've always said that living in the place in which you want to specialize has got to be a super bonus, super advantage. Have you found that to be true living in Landfall?
I know that the top agents in Landfall live in Landfall.
Live in Landfall.
Yeah. You can spread yourself thin in the Wilmington market and cover say you can specialize in the 5 different country clubs. I'm well versed on all 5 of the country clubs, and I can point you in the right direction. 2 of them, there's not neighborhoods around them. So it's just a knowledge base basically. But there's a lot of things that I always say Landfall is its own town. It's its own beast that you're not going to know if you don't live here.
Yeah, it makes sense. I agree. I think, I have some acquaintances here locally who specialize and who kind of dominate their local neighborhood. And, they live there. They've lived there for years and they know their neighbors. They network with the businesses that are located in their town centers. And, because a lot of these neighborhoods are like, master planned. So they're a lot, they're very much like towns, which I love. I love a master plan community. I know not everybody does, but I do. I love the conveniences of a master plan community. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. I think that, for a real estate agent who wants to specialize in a certain area, it might be worth making a goal eventually to live in that area if you can. And if you, if you work hard enough, you certainly can. I've heard great things about Landfall. I've never explored it. Obviously, it's come up on my radar a lot as I research the most desirable places to live around Wilmington. So look forward to visiting. I might shoot you an email, see if maybe you could give my wife and I a brief tour one day there of Landfall. We would love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's a lot of history to it. I feel like I've become a little history buff of Landfall, but I mean, purely from like enjoyment. And I honestly came in and I'm one of the youngest agents in the neighborhood that lives here. And I never wanted people to think like, oh, she hasn't been here for 30 years, so she doesn't know as much. So I think that like really sparked my interest in knowing about literally the history before Landfall was even developed, who owned it, the change of ownership. There's 12 subregions and there's one that's called Battery Park. And the reason it's named Battery Park is because it was a bunker from one of the wars prior to this land even being developed, and they found artifacts from the war. So little like if I'm driving somebody through Battery Park, there's probably like 20 homes back there out of the 2,000 homes in Landfall. But like I said, there's all these nuances that 99.99% of agents in the Wilmington area, they don't even know what Battery Park is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. That's one of the things that I love about Wilmington too, because I am a bit of a history nerd, is there's so much history in that region of North Carolina. Revolutionary War, Civil War, like just so much history. And it's one of the nation's oldest cities. It's just, to me, I love that part of Wilmington as well. You mentioned Wrightsville Beach. Wrightsville's beautiful. We've done some exploring, obviously, throughout Wrightsville, just kind of driving around and taking in what's what Wrightsville offers, and just an amazing area of Wilmington for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same thing
Airlie, I'm
there.
not so familiar with, and of course,
Oh
Figure
yeah.
Eight Island. You can't explore Figure Eight Island, so
I haven't.
unless you know someone, right? But I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna just say that each of those areas you just mentioned, like ton of history. So Airlie
Yep.
is very rich in history by the same person that developed Landfall, Pembroke Jones, developed the Airlie Gardens, handed that down, and that was so Landfall, part of Wilmington, was the hunting preserve, and then the Airlie Gardens was the basically where they wanted to create a beautiful garden area. And then there was also a train that would go down from, downtownish Wilmington
Mhm.
to Wrightsville Beach. And that's why, like, there's a hot dog place in Wrightsville Beach called Trolley Stop. And the reason it's called Trolley Stop is because there was a trolley that went the length of Wrightsville Beach. And Wrightsville Beach is a very small island. So, ton of history there. It's really cool. And the town of Wrightsville Beach has done a phenomenal job of keeping it not commercialized. They want to keep it a very small local beach, and they've done a really good job making sure that that happens.
I love that too. The town
I love that.
planners work hard at preserving the character that makes an area like Wrightsville Beach so special. I love to see that. And especially it's so challenging now because Wilmington is growing so quickly and has kind of grown quickly over the last even decade or so, but especially in recent years. So glad to hear that as well. And yeah, the history of the area, that's really cool that you're able to share those nuggets with clients, especially those who are coming from out of the area. I would say there's probably, do you work with a lot of buyer clients who are coming from other areas of the country?
Yes, big part of that's my YouTube channel and my YouTube videos.
Let's dive into that. I'm so glad you brought that up. I want to talk to you about marketing. Video marketing is so important. And I want to just get a little bit of an idea of how you got that started and what are your goals when you produce video for your marketing channels? What are the goals behind them?
So when I was in Raleigh, there was this realtor, and her and I worked together, and I love her, and Elise. And she moved to Tennessee. I don't know if she's doing real estate anymore, but she was doing these cute little TikTok videos, and she was a great dancer. And I was like, so that's really cool to see, but that's not my vibe because I'm not like a trained dancer like she is. And that's what I mean whenever, the beginning of our conversation, I'm like, you could bring whatever you want into real estate. And for
Hmm.
me, like, that's what she brought into it. And it was cool and it worked, but I knew that wasn't what was going to be for me. And so I was listening to another podcast, I listen to real estate podcasts because it does nothing but help me think of new ideas. And Shannon Gillette was on there. You could Google her. She's, a well-known realtor, and
Huge.
yeah, in the Arizona area. And in the podcast, she said, I started posting videos on YouTube, and sometimes I would get 0 views, or I would get 1 view, and it would be my own view of me watching it. And she said, I just did it for 3 years and nothing happened. And then after 3 years, people would reach out or somebody would contact me. And so it turned into a part of her business. And I was like, nobody's doing that here in Wilmington that I know of, and nobody's doing it in the Wrightsville Beach, Landfall, Airlie, Greenville Loop area, like specializing in that. And so I was like, I want to make this a niche. I want to be like, I don't want to sound like a jerk by saying I want to be like the queen of this area. But
Hmm.
by saying that, I mean, I want to be the person that people think of when they think of real estate in this Wilmington area and Wrightsville Beach area. So I hired a videographer, a local one, and it just wasn't a good fit. The quality wasn't there. Again, the devil's in the details, and it didn't feel high end. It didn't feel luxury. And so I sought out another videographer. He's actually in Charlotte. And so he comes to Wilmington from Charlotte, and he comes every other month. We batch film videos, and I put them on my YouTube. And so I posted videos it's been maybe 3.5 years now. And I actually will have people reach out from YouTube that are looking. And if you Google, like, I think my videographer told me this week when we did our strategy call, because we have a strategy call the week before we film. And he said, yeah, I was talking to my father about your videos, and I was telling him about Landfall, and he said, I Googled Landfall, Wilmington, North Carolina, and he was like, and you're the first thing that came up. And I haven't paid for extra CEO, I haven't paid for extra SEO or anything like that for that to happen. It truly has been from organically posting every 3 years. So if there's a newer agent listening to this in your market, pick something and just start doing it and just start consistently posting videos. And another podcast I was listening to, I used to think like, okay, I need to do it across all platforms. But this one podcast said, what was it? Done is better than perfect. And so
Absolutely.
in real estate, you can kill yourself trying to do it all, and you can't do it all. You'll get burnt out. So what
Mhm.
I did is I was like, I'm going to post these videos on YouTube. I want to be like the Landfall Wrightsville Beach specialist on YouTube, in addition to like other communities that are close by. And then I also have my Instagram reels. And so those are more like, so it's kind of like I have two different like buckets of what I'm going for. I just chose Instagram and YouTube. And the reason being YouTube worldwide, and I can post these like longer content videos, like home tours, stuff like that. And then for Instagram, it's been really, really great having my talking head reels. I'll do a market update. I'll talk about home inspections. I'll talk about, things that have happened with clients. If you're prepping your home for sale, this is applicable for anybody. You could do X, Y, and Z. I do a little bit of interior design stuff just for fun. I'm not an
Mhm.
interior designer. I'm not an inspector. So I always give people that disclaimer. But for my Instagram, whenever in our day and age, I'm an elder millennial, I'm 38. So when you meet somebody, you follow each other on Instagram. It's like the natural progression of our society these days. And it gave me instant credibility as a realtor in their mind because, again, I started my business over. So I was completely starting from zero, and 100% of my business up until this year has been SOI, people that I know, word of mouth. And this year, after being here for 3.5 years, is the first year where I've had transactions that have closed from people that I met on YouTube. And it hasn't been a ton of them. I'm still building that book of business because I've also found that you have different buyer profiles, and the buyer profile that's typically a YouTube lead is going to be a long-term play, in addition to the fact that they're very, very analytical. All of them are very analytical. So when someone is very analytical as a buyer profile for real estate, you're going to be working with them for longer. It's going to be a long-term play. And a lot of them will not end up moving to Wilmington because they're looking on YouTube and they're doing what you do, which is totally normal. You look at
Mhm.
Charleston, you look at Wilmington, you look at Asheville, you consider North Myrtle Beach if you're looking at golf, gated golf communities. And so one of the things that I've also done, because I know that they're very research heavy and they don't know if they've decided on Wilmington. Sorry, I'm out of breath from my pregnancy.
That's okay. It's all right. We talked about that too before we hit record. You're doing fine. This is excellent.
One of the things that I do is, and if you're a new realtor, this is a bit of advice I wish somebody would have given me a long time ago. I've connected with agents and have a solid like friendship now with agents in these different areas. So if I'm talking to somebody and we met on YouTube and I'm giving them a tour of Landfall, which typically takes 2.5 hours, and I'm like, hey, what areas are you considering? They're like, oh, well, we're also thinking about like North Myrtle Beach to Pawleys Island. It's called the Grand Strand.
Mhm.
There's an agent there. Her name is Tyson Jones. And anybody that is even remotely considering this area, it's an hour and a half away, but it's in South Carolina. I refer them to her. I'm like, I know she'll be well taken care of. It's the buyer profile. They're looking for, something that's close to the beach and or something that's gated, a similar like feel to it. Same thing for Charleston. Same thing for Asheville, North Carolina. So I can point them in the direction of where to go.
So much to unpack there.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love so many of the points that you just made. So let me just recap real quick. By the Queen of Landfall, of course, I get what you mean,
I don't
right?
want to sound like a-hole saying that.
You were fine. No, I get it. The recognized authority, right? And I think that that's so important but that becomes earned, and you're earning it through your YouTube content by being consistent, by
Mm,
being patient and committed to marketing your business in that way. I'm an SEO specialist. I know all about the patience and the commitment that's required to make Google work for you.
mhm,
And YouTube is much the same way, obviously the same company, but also the ROI is so exceptional if you can just establish that consistent content creation, stay committed to it, be patient. You still have all the other things you have to do in your business as well, and continue doing it. But that's why I think so many, YouTube especially is kind of, I don't think enough agents have leveraged YouTube very well. And I
Mhm.
see a lot of folks give up too soon because it does take time. It's a long game, but I think that anything when it comes to high value, high trust, and relationship building, it takes time. You can't just post 5 or 6 videos and expect to uh, earn a client or receive some leads from that type of work.
Mhm.
So yeah, long game. I love it though. How long have you been producing your YouTube channel? You said about 3 years,
Yeah,
two and a half.
I think it's been about 3 years. I'd have to go
Okay,
back and look, yeah.
that sounds
And
about right.
for the reels that I do, my goal is to post a reel weekly.
Mhm.
I might miss a week here and there. And then for YouTube, post a short. All of my reels I'll post as a short on my YouTube, but then some
Mhm.
of those videos we will shoot as a horizontal instead of a vertical. And so I would like, ideally I want like a longer horizontal video, usually at least by once a month in terms of
Yeah.
that out on YouTube.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing too about the long form videos, they're, as far as repurposing for Instagram is,
Mhm.
if you start wide and long in your video content production, it's a lot easier to crop in to, a vertical reel, shorter form content. You can, take a 10-minute or 15-minute YouTube video and repurpose it into 15
Slice
reels,
and dice it.
so, yeah, no, I love it. I love your strategy. It's very strong. You're doing amazing work there. Yeah, I huge advocate. So it's one of the things I admired about your business leading up to this conversation as I did a little research on you, and I just think you're doing a great job. And that actually covers the last question I always ask everyone is share some advice for new agents. And I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it, Jackie. Everything you said about video marketing and finding your niche, specializing in an area. I think those are all excellent points. Anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, for a new agent, I'm like, where do I begin?
Right, right.
I would say one of the big things is don't give up because the first 12 months are going to be really, really hard. You're going to think that you suck at it. You're going to have some tough clients. You're going to host open houses where nobody shows up. And the big thing is, I always say have blind faith. I have blind faith in a lot of things just because I'm a Christian. So just have blind faith in real estate, have blind faith in posting your videos on YouTube, have blind faith if you want to do TikTok. Just blind faith, right? Just keep going like you know you're going to get there 3 years from now.
I also love that point you made earlier that I forgot to underscore, and that was done is better than perfect.
Oh,
Published is
oh
better
yeah.
than perfect, right? So I say that all the time, and I have to remind myself of that all the time too. But I think that's excellent advice, especially when it comes to creating video content. Very few of us are naturals when it comes to recording on a camera or even a podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing podcasts for 6 years, and I stumble all the time, and I still get a little nervous
And
before
that's
each
okay.
recording. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think, it's more important to publish consistently, get it out there than it is to be perfect. And like somebody said that I remember I love this quote is like, don't let perfect get in the way of good, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie, this has been awesome. I can't wait to, what next time we visit Wilmington, I'll give you a heads up. And you mentioned you're expecting your third child.
Mhm.
Congratulations. You
Thank you.
did. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join the podcast. And I love what you're doing. I love what you shared in this episode for sure. For listeners who, obviously Wilmington's a hot market. For listeners who have clients who are thinking about relocating to Wilmington, how can they learn more about you and connect with you?
I would say my website has my phone number. That's how a lot of people end up getting my phone number. It's just my name, JackieHedgecock.com, or of course, Instagram. That's become a huge not only platform for posting things, but also for keeping in touch because you can send each other DMs back and forth. And there are a lot of pockets where I don't have an agent where I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, there's an agent in this area that I know I can definitely refer you to. So would love to connect with other agents if they're listening to this. And my Instagram, you could just search Jackie Hedgecock. And I joke that my mother misspelt my name. It's Jacki. There's no E. So Jackie Hedgecock.
I'll have the links, of course, in the description for this episode, and we'll tag you on Instagram when to let our followers on Instagram know when this episode is live. And again, Jacki, just really, really appreciate you joining the podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.